Then Sports Central will be giving you guys my NFL playoff predictions for this 2023 NFL season. It all comes down to this. 14 teams, only one's going to win the title. We'll be talking about who that team can be here today and also predicting the entire bracket. So with that, let's get started. Looking at the top of the AFC, we got the Bills and the Steelers, your 2-7 matchup. And I feel like Pittsburgh is probably the team I'm least confident in the playoffs. You got Mason Rudolph, a team that went 10-7 this season, but I feel like they're not even as good as their record shows. They maybe have overachieved a bit this season. They're a good team, but I just don't feel like they're on the same level as pretty much the entire playoff field. So I'm going with the Bills here pretty easily, and I feel like Buffalo is a pretty dangerous team when you consider how hot they are heading into the playoffs. They obviously had a really bumpy season. They've been pretty inconsistent, but they have been consistent in the last month or so. That is a team to keep an eye on. And then you got the Chiefs and the Dolphins, Kansas City defending Super Bowl champs. It would make sense to predict the Chiefs late into the playoffs if you knew just that. But this is a different Chiefs team this season. Their defense isn't as good, and the receiving core has been an issue for Kansas City. You got Travis Kelce, who's been okay down the stretch. He was much better in the first half of the season, but for the Chiefs heading into the playoffs, that's a team I'm not very confident in, especially in comparison to maybe the past few years. But they're taking on Miami, the Dolphins, a team who just lost to Buffalo and got dropped down to the 6th seed. Miami is a really solid team. They consider the receivers, Tyreek Hill, and that offense. I mean, Miami's going to be a really tough out, but I do want to go with Kansas City just because of the home field advantage is going to be huge for the Chiefs. They're always a brutal team to beat at home, and I feel like Pat Mahomes and this team does find a way to win in the wild card round. Then you got the Texans and the Browns. Houston versus Cleveland. There's a lot of really intriguing storylines in this year's playoffs. You consider Deshaun Watson, who's not going to be playing in this game, obviously, but I mean, if he was, that'd be a huge storyline. But instead, it's Joe Flacco, who has been incredible in the past month. It's going to be really fun to see him in the playoffs once again. And they're taking on C.J. Stroud, the rookie, and the Texans. And I mean, Houston's offense has been incredible this season. That's probably your surprise team of the entire NFL season. And for Cleveland and Joe Flacco, I mean, the storylines are incredible for this one. And this is really the one matchup that I really don't have much confidence in. This is really a 50-50 one. In the end, I'm going with Houston. I think that C.J. Stroud in this offense does find a way. Cleveland's defense has been incredible, though, this season. I mean, obviously, the last game of the regular season was awful, but they obviously rested pretty much all their key players, so you can't really take that into consideration. But I do think Stroud and the Texans do find a way to win this one, and they find their way into the divisional round. And then the NFC side, this is where it starts to get chaotic. I feel like the NFC is really up for, you got the 49ers, who are the clear favorite in the conference, but otherwise it's going to be a total mess. I think Green Bay beats Dallas. I think that, the Cowboys have been incredible this season. They've really, Dak Prescott has really found a way. He's been, you could argue, the best player in the NFL this year. But I think Green Bay and Jordan Love, this is a team that no one's going to want to play right now, especially Dallas. You consider the history between the Cowboys and the Packers in the playoffs. The Packers have had a lot of success against Dallas in recent memory, and I feel like that's going to continue in this one. And the Packers find a way to upset the Cowboys. Some might be surprised by this, but to me it really makes sense. And I feel like, Packers defense, it's going to be up to them to have a solid game because the Cowboys offense is no joke. But the thing is about the Packers as well, you consider the entire season, they have played up to competition. Their worst games have come against bad opponents for some reason, but whenever they take on a tough team, they always play up to their competition and usually have success. I think this is a dangerous game for the Cowboys. I think the Packers find a way. Then you got the Lions and the Rams, the most intriguing wild card match if you consider Detroit hosting a playoff game in the playoffs once again, first time in forever. And of course, it's against Matt Stafford, the quarterback of the Lions for so long, and the Rams coming in. And the Rams are also a very dangerous team. I think that you consider the young talent of the Rams, the future is really bright for LA. And I feel like this is a pretty dangerous game for Detroit as well. I'm taking the Rams to beat the Lions. And usually, I wouldn't go against the Lions here. They're obviously a really well-coached team, but I think the Rams find a way to win this matchup. And it's not everything in the playoffs makes sense. That's something to keep in mind when making predictions is not everything's going to make sense. On paper, the Lions should win this game, but the Rams and their dangerous young talent, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, and you got Matt Stafford going into Detroit once again. I think the Rams find a way, and a huge win for the Rams. they're a very dangerous team in this playoffs. Then you got the Bucs and the Eagles, two teams that I'm probably least confident in the NFC at this point. The Eagles have just fallen apart down the stretch. This is not the same team as they once were. But the Bucs with Baker Mayfield, they've definitely been impressive this season considering they were expected to be awful. So in this game, I do want to take the Eagles. I do think they put together a somewhat impressive performance. I'm kind of worried about the Eagles though. Just because, I mean, they've obviously they've just fallen apart. Regardless what happens, the Bucs and the Eagles, I really don't think either team can make a deep run. The Eagles have the talent to do so, but they just have not clicked at all down the stretch, so it's tough to have much confidence in them. But that sets up your divisional games. I would say the two games I'm least confident in for the wild card round are definitely Houston and Cleveland, and then Tampa and Philly. But looking at your divisional matchups, we got the Ravens and the Texans, or the Browns. You could put them in this situation. No matter what happens in that Texans-Browns game, they're going to lose to Baltimore. The Ravens have been just brutal to beat this season. They've been the most complete team, I'd say, in the NFL. I mean, Lamar Jackson, and that's also a team that's kind of flown, I would say, under the radar a bit. I mean, the 49ers have gotten a lot of attention. Philly did when they were playing well, even Kansas City, Miami, Buffalo, whatever. But Baltimore is a team that's a 1 seed, but they're probably your playoff favorite, I would say, when you consider the talent of that team and also just how they've played this season and how consistent they've been as well. So I think Baltimore finds a way into the AFC Championship game to take on either Buffalo or Kansas City. We've seen this matchup in the playoffs many times before. I think Buffalo is a team that's faced a lot of adversity this season, a lot of really close losses. But I think this playoffs is going to be theirs. I think they do beat Kansas City. The Chiefs defense, they're not the same team this season. The receiving core just hasn't been, it's been pretty bad this season. And so I think that's kind of an issue, and it's been an issue all year. I think it finds a way into the playoffs as well. And so for Buffalo, I think they find a way into the AFC Championship game to take on Baltimore. But for the NFC side, 49ers, Packers coming off of a huge upset in Dallas, but I think this is where the road ends for Green Bay. They take on the Niners. San Francisco, a lot of success against the Packers in the playoffs. I think that continues, and the 49ers are, you could say, the most complete team in the playoffs. You look at the defense, their offense. McCaffrey's been incredible this season. The receiving core, Brock Purdy's really been impressive. I think the 49ers beat the Packers and proceed on, and they're going to take on the LA Rams. I still feel like the Rams are, I mean, we saw them, they were dangerous enough 2 years ago to win the entire thing, and I think the Rams make a run once again this season. You consider the offense has been incredible for the Rams. The defense has been a bit of a concern, so that does concern me with them being able to make a long run in the playoffs. But I think their offense is going to be good enough, and so they find a way into the NFC Championship game to take on the Niners. So those are your two conference championships, and I do think when you got Ravens and Bills, not everything in the playoffs is going to make sense, and I'm going Buffalo here. On paper, Baltimore probably should win the entire thing, and it should be a Baltimore-San Francisco Super Bowl. It would make total sense if that did happen, but not everything in the playoffs is going to make sense. That's something that, I mean, it's true. It's going to be tough to predict. It's always tough to predict the playoffs because something unexpected always happens. I think Buffalo is going to make a run this time. I feel like, I mean, they've, once again, faced a lot of adversity this season. It's been a bumpy season, but I think, I mean, you consider the way they've played the past month, they're, you could say, the hottest team heading into the playoffs, and I think Buffalo is going to make a run here. And then for the 49ers and the Rams, I mean, I would pick the Rams here, but I feel like their defense is going to catch up to them at this point. And for the 49ers, as complete of a team as they are with McCaffrey, and you look at Brock Purdy, that offense, I think they find a way to beat the Rams, and you're going to get a Bills-49ers Super Bowl matchup. It really could be 49ers-Ravens. Everyone's predicting that, but I think that Buffalo is going to prove a lot of people wrong in these playoffs. I mean, they jumped up from, considering that was a team that heading into the last week of the regular season had a chance of being bumped out of the playoffs. Just incredible what Buffalo has done down the stretch, really. And I feel like they make a run, and in the end, that's going to be your Super Bowl champion. Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, that team is going to win it all. I feel like the 49ers on paper, though, would probably win this matchup as well. But you consider, once again, the story of the Bills this season and how bumpy it's been. But they've found a way later on in this season to win some big games. And I do think they do so against the 49ers, and they win it all. 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, once again, that's a brutal team. But I think Buffalo and the story of them, they're going to win it all this season. But with that, obviously, everyone's going to have different playoff predictions. A lot of things can happen. This is, I would say, I'd say 10 teams in the playoffs this year really could win it all. This is one of those years where it's really wide open. But with that, once again, leave your thoughts in the comments below. My name's Evan. This is All Sports Central. Stay tuned for more. We'll catch you on the next one.